Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this TradeStation webinar. This is a getting started session. So it is designed to get you up and trading with TradeStation in no time. My name is Jesus Nava. I'm the Director of Client Training and Education for TradeStation Securities. I do these classes every single week, so you're welcome to join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. East. I do a more advanced series on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So just always look at the schedule or the events calendar on tradestation.com for any upcoming topics. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules to learn a little bit about the TradeStation technology. That we have access to a chat window right there at the bottom of the Zoom technology. So make sure that you know where it is and use it if you have any questions or any comments about the information that I'm presenting on. I'll be glancing at the chat once in a while to make sure that I address your questions real time. So today we're going to focus on the TradeStation Desktop. This is the flagship product of TradeStation, and I'm going to show you a few apps, starting with charting, then we're going to go over to scanning, and last we're going to do a little bit of matrix trading. Before we do, let's go through some disclosures. Just keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, that active trading is not suitable for everyone, and past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. If anybody needs additional information on these disclosures, go to www.tradestation.com/important information. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump over here to the TradeStation desktop. And this is the way that TradeStation shows up when you first install it and when you first log into the platform. You'll see what's called TradeStation Today, which is opened up as a workspace. In fact, if you look at the bottom of TradeStation, you see a tab that's named TS Today. Every time you open it, it should be there. If it's not, you can find it right here in the apps menu, and you'll find the TS Today workspace has a button right there on the top of the apps menu. By the way, since we're already here in the apps menu, look at all the different buttons that you see in the apps. These are individual applications that you can launch within the TradeStation platform. So you can already see that we could spend hours here talking about every single app that's here. And of course, we don't have the time to do, but I'm just going to give you a brief presentation on some of the ones that are used most. We have video content on most of these applications. So if something catches your eye and you want to learn a little bit more, right here from the TS Today workspace, we have a section for videos. And I do encourage everyone that is not familiar with the TradeStation desktop to come here and look at all the videos that present some of the applications of TradeStation, like Scanner, Hot Lists, if you're interested in strategy trading or easy language. Those are things that we're probably not going to be able to cover today because of time restrictions. But if you're interested, you can come here and look at all those videos. By the way, those videos that you see here, the list of videos that you see here is also accessible from within the TradeStation YouTube channel. So that's another option for you to look at videos and learn about the TradeStation platform, okay? Right here in the middle, we are connected to a news feed. This gets updated as new news articles are fed through our connection. Over here on the right, you have upcoming events. For today, of course, we are in the the TradeStation Desktop's presentation, but later this afternoon, if you look at not only at the events calendar, because you can also find these events on ts.com or tradestation.com, but we have them here just in case you're on the platform and you want to know what events are upcoming. You can just go to the TradeStation Today workspace and look over here on your right. This afternoon, we have a special guest, Stephen Kalajian from SK. Forgot the name of his corporation, but he is a trader and an educator. So if you're interested in looking at futures setups, taking into account high probability, then this is a topic that you don't want to miss. So make sure that you register. It's this afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, let's go ahead and open up a new workspace. I'm just going to come down here to the left and click on the plus. That'll open an untitled workspace for me. It's untitled because I haven't saved it. If you want to save your work in TradeStation, you have to go through the file menu, workspace, and save the workspace. That's a manual save. in order for TradeStation to remember what you created. So we go here to the apps menu and we're going to click on chart analysis. Chart analysis is one of the first things that as a trader you want to look at. You want to see price activity, not only historical, but also real time and how it's fluctuating tick by tick. So as soon as I open up a chart, it loads a symbol. You can see that this is a floating window, by the way. So it's very flexible in terms of organizing windows. I can grab it from a corner and make it any size that I want. So this gives me full flexibility in the way that I want to arrange my charts and my watch lists and anything that I want to open up inside of this workspace. As long as you are on the tab that says Untitled Workspace, everything is going to be included here. So if I go to Apps and click on chart analysis one more time, you'll see that it'll add a second chart to my workspace. And these, of course, are all individual and independent. I can go to the window menu and you have some automatic arrange functionality that sometimes saves you a lot of time. For example, if I wanted to see these two windows horizontally, I just click on arrange horizontal and notice how it finds a space for them automatically inside of my workspace. If I wanted to do it vertically, I just go to window and say arrange vertically, and then I have a vertical view. So that those window arrange features finds a space for every application that is open inside of the workspace. Sometimes convenient, sometimes it's not. And the times that it's not convenient, it's probably because you want to allocate specific space to each of the windows depending on the importance that application represents. And a lot of times, if you're trading on a 5 minute time frame, maybe that's the chart that I want to make bigger, and maybe this other chart that I can change to a daily time frame. Let's go change this to daily. I probably want to make it here and just put it here at the bottom here. Then I go to the apps menu one more time and I say, let me open up a time and sales. I take the time and sales, I put it up here, and there we go. So now we have three different windows that I've arranged the way that I want. I can link the windows together or the applications together by clicking these linking buttons. You can see the S stands for a symbol link and the I is for interval. So I don't want to link by interval in this example because I have a 5 minute chart and I have a daily chart. Your link by interval is if you have multiple charts on different symbols and the same time frame. Sometimes it's convenient to change the time frame across all different symbols at once. But this allows me to change the symbol and have all the windows update to that symbol automatically. One of the quickest ways that I find to change the symbol is just typing it in. TradeStation is going to be very responsive to keyboard commands, so that as soon as you start typing, you'll see a command line pop up. Let me show you. Let's say that I want to take a look at Tesla. So as soon as I type in the T for Tesla, you see how the command line pops up. I didn't have to do anything special. I just had to start typing, and TradeStation recognizes that as a command that you're trying to enter. So I complete the symbol TSLA, hit the enter key, and you can see that all my three applications switched to Tesla. So now I have a 5 minute chart here on the left. I have a daily time frame right here at the bottom, and I have my out of control time and sales. You can see all the trades that are coming through Tesla, and you can see how fast the time and sales is updating right now. So very highly active stock, and you can clearly see that in a time and sales window. Right here at the bottom, as you continue to use TradeStation and you start trading, even if it's on the simulated environment, which is the environment that I'm connected to, this is not a live account, but I do get real data. So even though you go into a simulated trading mode, you're still getting real-time data depending on the data packages that you've turned on. But what I wanted to say is that if you're trading on a simulator, the simulator is also collecting all your trading activity and creating a log out of it. And when you pull up a chart on a symbol that you've traded before, in this case, I've traded Tesla on my simulator, it's going to show your trading activity. Let me go ahead and remove some of these applications because I want to expand my chart view. So I'm just going to take this chart and expand it, and you can see all the different trades that I've placed for Tesla. Not only it's showing me trades that I've placed historically, but it's also showing me any open positions. So at a glance, I can take a look here and see that I'm long 100 shares of Tesla that I bought at this price that highlighted in yellow. I bought them at 425.10. The current price is 449.78. So we know that it's going up, and that's why we see a P&L, which is updating in real time of $2,500. So all that information is available on a chart, which I find very useful, especially if you are in trading mode. If you are in analysis mode, maybe a lot of this information gets in the way. If you're adding moving averages or Bollinger Bands and you're doing some technical analysis on the security and you want to draw lines and you want to draw flags and whatever you want to do, then a lot of the trading activity gets in the way and it's just distracting. If you want to turn that feature off, a very quick way to do that is by right clicking on any of these signals. And then notice that you have the option that says disable account orders and positions. Just to be mindful of where you're right clicking, because if I right click on the background, I get a totally different menu. And if I right click on the candles, I get a totally different menu. So yes, TradeStation is sensitive to where you're right clicking or left clicking. It has different behaviors. So if you right click on the little white, red, or blue arrow, then you get the short menu that has the disable account orders and positions. And if I click there, you can see how all the trading activity, including the information on my open position, goes away. The historical trading activity is still there and my position is still open. I just disconnected the chart from all of that so that I could just focus on my analysis if I wanted to do some analysis here. For example, if I go to the drawing menu and I take a look at, for example, the Fibonacci retracement lines, I can say I'm going to draw it from this top and go all the way down to this bottom. And there we go. Now it draws the Fibonacci calculations and lines on top of my candlesticks. Of course, this is a drop that happened back in December, opening January, February, and March. This is for Tesla. So that was right after the election, right? And now you see how Tesla has been behaving from that point on forward, and you can see the retracements from that bottom, the 23%, the 50%. Then it just wanders here on that 50% and using that as a resistance level. And then once it breaks that 50% retracement, then it just picks up and we'll see it approaching the top of that retracement, the 100%. So interesting way that we can look at any security, and the drawing menu is filled with different things that you can put on a chart. The Fibonacci retracements is just one of those tools. If I wanted to do some indicators, I have to go here to studies and click on add study. In TradeStation, you're going to find studies grouped in 5 different categories. So you have indicators, show me paint bars, activity bars, and probability maps. The bulk of everything that you are probably going to be looking for is going to be right here in indicator. So if I want to take a look at Bollinger Bands, I just scroll up here. I see my Bollinger Bands. I click it and then just click OK. And it goes right on my chart. Pretty cool, huh? Of course, you can make modifications to any study that you put on the chart. If I wanted to change the moving average of that Bollinger Band, or if I wanted to change the standard deviations, those are things that, yes, you can modify. I'm going to double click on one of these lines. And again, we go back to being precise in terms of what you're double clicking on, because I just want to confirm that the customize indicator dialog, because that's what I want to edit. I want to edit the Bollinger Band. A lot of time, and it's happened to me too, I'm not so precise and I think I'm double clicking on the line, but I'm actually double clicking on the background of the chart, and it takes you to a different customizing window. This is customized window, has nothing to do with the indicator, but still a shortcut. So if you wanted to make modifications to, let's say, the color of the background or the grid, if you wanted to make it a little bit more visible, or the session breaks, whatever it is that you want to change in terms of window style, yes, double click on the background. But if I wanted to modify the indicator, I just want to make sure that I'm double clicking on one of its lines. Doesn't matter which line it is, as long as it's one of the lines of the study, and then you are taken to this customized indicator dialog where I have access to inputs. So remember that inputs is like the way that you're inputting something in the indicator. You're making some adjustments, you're modifying. So the inputs is going to be like a window to the indicator where you can modify all sorts of inputs. This all depends on how the study was programmed, but here I can see the length of the moving average. Let's say that I want to increase that to 50, but at the same time, I want to lower my standard deviations to 1. So it's going to be a 1 and a -1, one standard deviation. So I click OK, and there you go. You can see that my Bollinger Band adjusted. Now I have a smoother type of Bollinger Band because I'm using more bars. I went from 20, which is the default, to a 50 moving average, and then calculate the standard deviation. This is just one standard deviation. What's the purpose of doing this? You have different ways of analyzing these studies, and you have a default parameter, which is the intended way that the study was designed, but you can make it your own and say, I feel like a 50 would give me smoother averages. But yes, this is a decision you'll have to make. You can also see that the whole concept about Bollinger Band is identifying extremes. And the way that I've modified my Bollinger Band, I see a lot of bars that are outside the bands, which defeats the purpose of the Bollinger Band finding these extremes. But you may have a purpose of doing it this way, maybe looking at ways in which the Bollinger Band can act as support and resistance. So yeah, different ways in which you can analyze data and different ways in which you can make indicators work for you according to your trading style. All right. I'm not going to be able to show you every single study, but you get the idea that you can add studies, you can double click on the studies, make modifications, and one more thing that I wanted to show you on the indicator dialog is that you can turn on an alert. Yes, most of the indicators in TradeStation have alert pre-programmed, and all you need to do is come here and enable it. Very simple. Of course, you can change how you want to be alerted, whether you want a visual pop-up, or if you want a sound, a siren to go off, if you want to be alerted continuously or once per bar. So there's a lot of behavior that goes into alerting, and you can choose different alerts for each one of the studies if you need to. Nice. Let's go ahead and show you also a very quick way of us setting up a price alert. I see the price of Tesla reaching 450 as we speak. Broke 450 today. It did a couple days ago too, but now it's also trying to break that line. I can draw a line right there when I go to drawing, horizontal line. Now let's say that I want to place this line. I'm clicking and dragging, and I want to be alerted if it goes beyond 455. Now you can see that I'm dragging. I don't quite get 455 even. In fact, right now it's showing 455.37, but I can drop my line in there. I can double click on it. Again, double clicking to customize. I'm going to go here to the style. I'm going to make that line yellow, and I'm going to make the style I'm not changing. I'm changing the weight. I'm making the line a little bit thicker so it's a little bit more visible. And I'm going to go to the alerts tab and enable the alert. I'm going to set my alert to breakout interbar. Intra is when the line is in between lines. That happens when there's a gap, the price jumps and it doesn't touch the line. That is a breakout intra. I'm sorry, that's a breakout interbar, which is the default. This is the breakout is, I think it's breakout intra bar. But the thing is that the intra and interbar will cover you in both scenarios. Whenever if the price just jumps and creates a gap and doesn't even touch the line, that's an inter bar trigger. And then you have the intra bar trigger, which is when the actual bar crosses the line and it's pretty much touching it. Okay. And you can do alert continue. I'm going to do alert once per bar. So if you have a daily chart, it'll just be a daily alert and then just click OK. And now I have a line that I've customized. I've set the color, the style, the thickness, and I've also made it a hot line. So as soon as the price activity here reaches 455, which in the past 30 seconds that I've been speaking, it went up $3. So it's going there. I can just be looking at it and wait until it reaches 455. But as we all say, sometimes you're looking at a price and it's not going to move in the direction that you want it to move. But the price is already at 454, so we're going to get the real-time alert right here. So as soon as it touches, oh, actually no, the line is at 455.37. So I can double click on that line, go to the data tab, and enter the precise price. You can do that if you wanted to have the 455 even. There we go. So now we are at 454. 69.70, it's going to touch it. We're just 50 cents away. There we go, almost reaching it. Yeah, what I'm using right now is the up arrow and down arrow keys on my keyboard, which allow you to compress and expand the chart. I forgot to tell you this, but I found these two keys very convenient. So up arrow to expand, down arrow to contract. If you bring your cursor down, you also have these expand and contract buttons down here. So use the one that are more comfortable to you. I've gotten used to use the up arrow and down arrow, but if I just noticed that if I press the up arrow, and then the range here is automatically adjusted so you can see how the horizontal line is gone. It's not gone, it's just not visibly inside the chart because the scale is adjusted automatically from the lowest value to the highest value. And our price wise, our line is set up at 455, which is outside the visible range. But if I compress the chart, then since I have a higher high here, this high over here is 488, then of course it includes my horizontal line. And as you can see, the price decided not to follow through with the breakout, but we'll monitor it. What I'll do is I'll just leave the chart open and you'll see how the chart or the alert is generated if it happens, if it goes to 455. I'm going to go here and open up another workspace. Okay, in this other workspace, I'm going to show you a little bit of scanning. So I'm going to go here to apps. I'm going to click on radar screen. Radar screen is our real-time ranking and scanning tool. It works wonders when it comes to scanning symbols and trying to find specific events, specific opportunities. I'm going to go here into the symbol column and I'm going to say add a symbol list and I'm going to do the S&P 500. These are the 500 symbols that make up the S&P index. At the very top, you see the label. I'm going to remove the label because I don't need it. I just have to click on it and press delete. The symbol list starts with $INX, which is the index itself. I'm going to remove that because I just want to focus on the 500 symbols. I'm going to make this window larger, and you can see that as soon as there's enough space for it to duplicate the columns, it'll do that automatically, and I can see a fuller view of my watch list. Okay, a couple things that I like to do to my radar screen, and I'll use this opportunity so you can see what I do all the time. For example, the font, I like my font to be a little bit bigger. I just feel like it's nicer on my screen. So I'm going to go here to settings and I'm going to go and click on page. Settings, page. I'm going to go to font and for the grid values, and instead of an 8, I'm going to make them 10 and I'm going to make them bold. And for the headings, also going to do bold and 10. I have an apply to all pages checkbox at the bottom. Oh, by the way, take a look at what happened. I almost missed it. I heard a little ding on my computer, and I thought it was an email notification, and it's not. See how it just crossed horizontal line triggered on symbol Tesla. So we did get the alert. Notice that the chart is not on the screen, but it's open. I left the chart open so that it would alert me. So it caught my attention, and I know that Tesla is or crossed the 455 line. Doesn't give me a real-time price on Tesla, but I know that the line where the horizontal line was triggered. Fine. Let me go ahead and click on OK here. Okay, you can see how my symbol list is a little bit thicker and larger. That's the way that I like my font. And another thing that I'm going to do, whenever you do that, you have to go to settings and save this as a template because for yes, it doesn't save those settings automatically. You didn't see a set as default because radar screen works in terms of templates. If I were to go to apps and click on radar screen again, you would see that I'm back on the smaller font and it doesn't hold the font settings that I had on my screen. So you have to come once you set the radar screen to the size you want, then you have to come here to settings, templates, and save the template. These are templates that are already built into TradeStation that you can take a look. I'm going to choose mine. So this is my template, and I'm just going to click OK. Oh, one thing that I forgot to do, let me go back here to settings, templates, and save template. If you select my template, which is the one that I created, now you can set the template as default so that every time that I open up radar screen, it has the same color, the same thickness, and so forth. You can also create a custom template of columns, which is interesting because I can say there are some pre-built here. So let me show you the templates of style. Templates, and I'm going to apply template. You can see different templates here. The classic black is the one that it's turned on by default, but you can do this is a classic big and italic, obnoxious, contemporary black, contemporary blue, contemporary green, contemporary khaki, my blue template. I don't know. This is bluish. I'm not sure if you have a bluish, but I'm just going to click OK here. And you can see that it turns my radar screen with a bluish background. This is not so bad. I like this. In fact, one thing that happened here, okay, there you go. Get my columns on the top. Yeah, this is not that bad. If I wanted to do or change my group of analysis technique, just go to settings and not here, it's not in settings, it's in studies. Go to studies and you have the ability to add a study group. If I go there, I have, for example, if you want to look at earnings per shares and price to earnings, I'm going to click OK. And that replaces my columns. I can double click here on my column so that it fits all the pricing information. Too bad that I cannot do it on the whole. Let me see if I click here. It doesn't work on the whole radar screen. It'll do it by column, which is okay. I'm going to double click here. So you can see that there's historical fundamental data. So go to studies, look at the study groups, and we have between fundamental data, between technical analysis. So I think I have some groups that I've created myself. If I want to look at technicals, then you can see that this changes for every group that you create. Okay? All right, let me go back here to the default. I'm going to go here to studies, add study group. And I think the basic, yeah, that's the one that's on by default. If you want to change your columns, you just do it here. It says automatically add into new radar screen windows so that if there's a set of columns that you always want to be available on your radar screen, you can just pick it from here or create a group of your own. I'm going to click OK. I'm back on my basic. What I'm going to do is filter this list. I can rank symbols by double clicking on any of these columns. So if you double click on volume today, it'll sort in ascending order. So you can see that NVR, if I hover over NVR, it tells me the description of the company. It says NVR Inc. listed in the New York Stock Exchange. The shares of this stock are worth $8,000. And one of the reasons why it doesn't have much volume is because of the price of every share. So far, only 1,482 shares have been traded. Now, if I double click again on the volume header, it'll sort in descending order. And you can see the one that's been traded the most is NVIDIA with 51.8 million shares traded so far. It is still 10:30 in the morning. So this security has a long way to go in terms of volume, but this is accumulated volume since NVIDIA started trading. And you can see them ranked based on volume activity so far. NVIDIA, we got Pfizer, then we got Tesla in the third spot, Intel fourth, AES fifth, Nike sixth, Ford seventh, PlanterTech eighth, Apple ninth, and then we have Amazon on the 10th spot. All right, so quick way to rank symbols. If you want to know which of the symbols are the ones that have changed the most, sort by net change, net percent change. By double click, you can see that the one that has been, remember that when you first double click, it's ascending order. So you see the lowest value, the stock that has been dropping the most is Corteva Inc. Is down 6.5% since the close of yesterday. If I double click again, I see the highest gainer, in this case is AES Corp, with a 14% increase in price from the close of yesterday. Of course, this is a stock that's worth $15. I'm not sure what has happened to AES, but it's interesting that we're able to identify behaviors like this by doing simple ranking. Okay? If you want to rank by price, of course you can do that. If you want to see the cheapest stock in the S&P 500 is this one, Amcor PLC. Now, Ford is not really that far away. It's the third cheapest stock in the S&P 500. So if you wanted to, yeah, double clicking works great. If you wanted to be a little bit more sophisticated in terms of filter, you can do the filter bar up here. I can say, show me stocks that have a volume today greater than, and I'm going to say 10 million. 10 million. See how the whole list is filtered and showing me just stocks or securities that are trading 10 million shares or more. Let me drop 10 here so that I can see the ones that have 1 million or more, because I can continue to add filters. I can say, show me the ones that have traded more than 1 million shares, but also have a percent change greater than 5. So out of all those symbols, only 4 meet the criteria. Now, if you drop this and say higher than 3, of course, more will meet the criteria. But you can see how dynamic these filters are, and they update in real time. So as they meet the criteria, they make the list. As soon as they don't meet the criteria, they'll be dropped from the list. Okay, if I wanted to, let me go ahead and remove these and maybe turn this to none. If I want to do a more sophisticated filter based on an analysis technique, I can just add a study. You can go to studies and add studies, or you can click on the plus here to add an additional column. Let me go ahead and add something simple like RSI. I want to see the ones that are overbought or oversold. I'm going to add this, move it down so it's at the very end of my radar screen. Okay, that calculates RSI for me. Of course, you could sort by the RSI value, and you can see all the ones that are or the ones that are oversold, and all the ones that are overbought, and all the ones that are above 70. But if you want to know the ones that are not necessarily on these extremes, but have recently come out of these extremes, because those are the areas that, based on the RSI, are indications of trend reversal. So something is overbought or overbought, overbought, and it stays on that overbought stage, and all of a sudden it drops below the overbought level, then it says, okay, watch out. Maybe it's on reversing its upward trend. If you want to look for those opportunities of something that is returning for an overbought and oversold, then you have to filter by the RSI alert, because the alert of the RSI is going to look for those specific events. So I can right click on the header for the RSI, click on studies, and I can edit this RSI for all symbols. And I can say, I'm going to go here to alerts. First of all, let me look at the inputs, because I want to check the levels. The oversold is anything below 30, and the overbought is anything above 70. This is looking for, or the alerts is going to look for the crossovers. So I'm just going to say enable alert. I'm going to say alert continuously. But in this example, I'm just going to say no pop-ups and no sounds. Why? Because I'm turning on an alert for all symbols. And how many symbols do I have? It's 500, because I'm starting with the S&P 500. So this is a list of symbols that I don't want to have sirens going off, because it can just become excessive. You can get hundreds of alerts at the same time if there is a big market move and all the symbols decide to start triggering alerts at the same time. So for this example, I'm turning that messaging off, and this is done when you're scanning for alerts in radar screen. So alerts are enabled. You can see a little yellow corner on the right side of this column. And I see every so often, I see a little red marker. One thing that I forgot to tell you, and let me show you what I mean by that, is I'm going to pull up a chart here on the right-hand side, apps and chart analysis. Okay, let me put it right here. I see your comment, Raphael. I'll take your question in just a moment. I just want to show you what I just caught, and I haven't mentioned it to you yet. If I go here to add study and I go and look for the RSI, so many times when I'm scanning for alerts in radar screen, I'm also adding that same study right here inside of my chart so that I can see it graphically. Let me go ahead and turn the RSI to thicker lines and set it as a default. I recently installed my TradeStation and it reset all my settings. But let me go ahead and link these two windows together, and I'm going to look at this alert, CVS. I click on CVS, and CVS is overbought today. That is not turning down though. Let me open this more so you can see it. On the RSI, oh, it is now. Now it's turning down and it's crossed below that level. So this is a real-time alert. For CVS, that red marker in real time. Now you can see that it's turning a darker red. I wanted to point this out to you because we have the bright red and the dark red. It turns dark red whenever the alert is not real time anymore. And you can see that on the graph. You can see that the RSI line is pointing upward. And as long as we have that upward movement on CVS, that line is going to stay overbought. The alert is only triggered when the line turns down and it crosses below that line. Does that make sense? Another thing that you have to be aware of is the time frame, because technical analysis is dependent on the time frame you select. I'm looking at a 5 minute chart. If I look at my radar screen, you can see that the interval is set to 5 minutes as well. So the values that I see here for the RSI are the same values that I see here for the RSI. For example, for CVS, it's 71.45, and you can see that it matches the 71.45 here. But as soon as you have a different time frame, let's set this to daily, you can see that the RSI on a daily time frame for CVS is 64.30. There's no match. So if you're looking for things to match, just be aware that on the chart you have a time frame, and on the radar screen you also have a time frame setting that you can switch so that your technical analysis are aligned. One more thing before I take the question here from the chat is that, let me change this to a 5 minute, is that I can filter my radar screen based on alert. And I can come here to the filter bar, select my RSI, and say alert is true. And as easy as that, within a minute or two, I was able to set my radar screen to scan all 500 symbols and tell me which ones are triggering the alert. And you can see clearly the red markers on the right-hand side. And you also are seeing how the list gets shorter and longer in real time, because there are symbols that are flipping back and forth on that threshold, like CVS. CVS right now is overbought, but a few seconds ago it was not. So you have those symbols that are going to be in that stage, and they're going to show up and then disappear, show up and then disappear. But these are all candidates that are triggering the alert on the RSI. For example, here we have Comcast. If I click it, my chart updates, and you can see that Comcast is on the opposite side where the security is oversold. We see a drop in price, but it's been pointing upward. The alert is not real time anymore. You can see that Comcast is gone from my list because it went in an overbought level, an oversold level once again. So as long as they're flipping back and forth over that line, they will show up and disappear. Let's take a look at something that okay, this is also flipping back and forth. CHRW, ETR. These are all symbols that have recently turned into the other side, which is pretty interesting. All right, this is SBA Communications. We have a strong upward movement on that RSI line. It was oversold for a few periods. This is 5 minute bars, and all of a sudden it points up back inside, and it's responding to that upward movement in the last 20, 30 minutes. Okay, let's take a look at this question. Good morning, Jesus. Rafael from Spain. Welcome, Rafael, to class. I would like to ask you if it's possible to install inside the TradeStation platform an external indicator like the impulse system indicator. I don't know how I can include it. Thank you a lot for the class. You're welcome, Rafael. And the answer to that is yes. TradeStation is capable of bringing in third-party indicators as long as, and this is a big if, as long as the indicator is written in easy language. We do find a lot of indicators out there that are probably written in different languages. So if it's not coded in easy language, then it will not work. TradeStation's proprietary programming language is called easy language, and all studies and strategies are created using easy language. In fact, I can right click on any of these studies. I can right click on the RSI, for example, and from the right click menu, notice that there's an option that says edit easy language for RSI. So I have the ability to open the easy language code that controls the RSI, and this is what it is. Yes, your indicator would have to be written in this code. And if it is, great, because all you need to do is double click on the file. So this is a small file that is given to you, and you just double click on it and just TradeStation will start the input wizard. But that's one of the things you need to find out, if there's a version of that study that has been written in easy language. If you understand, Rafael, if you understand the mechanics of the indicator and you know how the study's calculated, maybe you could program it yourself, because that's the whole idea about easy language. For every trader to have a little bit of knowledge on programming easy language so that you can customize indicators and create strategies that you can automate on the TradeStation platform. Okay? Hopefully that answers the question. All right, guys. One more thing that I wanted to show you before we end the class is the matrix. I'm going to show you this briefly because we're running out of time and I just want to be respectful of your time. But this is the matrix window. It's a very easy order entry window because it's very visual. I know a lot of times what I do is I have a matrix window and I also have a chart here on the right hand side because a lot of times the chart will show you where those orders are in relationship to past historical activity. So let me change my font here on the matrix as well. I'm going to go to settings and click on window, go to the font, and I'm going to make it bold 10 for everything. Okay, that just gives me a little bit more umphs on those values. I'm looking at SBA communications. Let me switch the symbol to something that we can take a look at. Let's do WMT. This is Walmart. Okay, Walmart is trading at $100.74. I already have a position open on Walmart. How can I tell? Because this left column is in green. This is showing me my P&L on Walmart. Also, right here on the top, I can see my position. I have 300 shares long of Walmart. So as long as it keeps on going up, I'm continuing to make money. Or I can just close my position very quickly by clicking the close button here on the right. This is a market order to close my 300 shares of Walmart. I'm going to do that right now. Close. This is my confirmation. Confirmations are great. For this part of the class, I'm going to disable confirmations. Every confirmation window has a checkbox that says, don't show me this again. But then you have a disclaimer. So be sure that you want to do this. Well, you can always turn them on, but I just want to say that confirmations are great because it allows you to double check your work. In this case, I'm selling 300 Walmart. This is based on, okay, based on market depth. If I sell at market, I may sell 100 at 176, 200 at 175, and then 200 at 177 based on what's being shown in market. This is interesting. And of course, this is not updating in real time. This is as today, 1046. It's already 1047. If I say no and I click on close again, order filled. Oh, I did disable confirmation. So it went through and it disabled. It actually closed my trade. Okay, perfect. That's fine. We can see my closed P&L up here. I made $315. I can continue to trade this if the information that you see in the blue and the red is market depth. Those are orders that are waiting to get filled. If you want to buy, you click on the blue and the order gets submitted. You click on the box to cancel. If I want to sell short, I click right here on the red. That's a sell short transaction. I click it and I drag it to a different location if I want to make adjustments. Click and drag to any other place to make an adjustment. Single click on the box to get rid of it. Pretty simple, huh? So if I can click here and say, I want to buy at 165, that's my order for 100 shares. Click, drag, get closer to the market activity. I know the selling price is 181, so I can drop it there. I have better chances of dropping it at or getting filled at 182. There was more shares there. This is a fast moving market. But if I drop my order where the sellers are, order filled, I get filled. And that horizontal bar, that's my position. If I want to bracket my position, I can use a bracket here, an exit bracket, and then say place OCO order. That submits two selling transactions around my position. Very tight though. It's a 10-cent exit on both sides. So on a $100 stock, that's pretty tight. Of course, you can move these in any direction if you want to. I also want to show you that all that's happening here should be reflected in my chart. It's not visible right now because I disabled account orders and positions. So remember that you can go to settings, account orders and positions. Oh, it's there. It's just a different symbol, sorry. So let me go ahead and change the symbol of my chart. And there it is. You see the information right there at the bottom that I got filled at 182. I have my target and my stop in here. If you wanted to have a little bit more liberty as to where to drop those, I can turn on chart trading. There's a button here that turns it on. There we go. It's called chart trading. If I click there, it turns on chart trading, allowing me then to click and drag lines from the chart. Because if I wanted to set my target at 101, I just make sure to drop it there. And there we go. And if I want to set my stop at 170, I just raise it and drop it there. So there's a lot of things you can do in TradeStation, especially when it comes to order entry. We provide you a lot of flexibility so that you can find the tool that fits your trading style best. A lot of times we like to trade on a chart, we like to trade on the matrix, we like to trade on the trade bar. To tell you the truth, when I do my trading, I do a combination of all. I like the chart because I have the ability to raise my targets and stops higher. If I were, I can put my target here at 103 if I wanted to. But here on the matrix, to reach 103, it takes a lot of scrolling. So sometimes that's a little cumbersome. So the matrix is great for those that are trading very close to where your entry is. You're scalping the markets, and it's great for that. Makes it very easy to enter your trades and manage them because you get a very great visual. All right, guys, this is my class for today. I went through three main apps of TradeStation: charting, scanning, and now Matrix. As I said before, there's a ton of other education on different apps, so make sure that you explore. If anybody has any questions on how to find education on certain apps, please email education at tradestation.com. I'm putting that email address right there in the chat. So make a note of it. That's a way that you can communicate with the education team. Thank you for your time. Please check the events calendar for upcoming sessions. It was a pleasure having you, and I look forward to seeing you in one of my future classes. Goodbye, everyone.